Hey, just so you know, real quick, we're going to be talking about birds. You know, I adore combat strategies. I like mid-rangey decks in Magic the Gathering. I also really like token strategies because I like having a giant board of things I can't even count. I also really like landfall strategies, and it's very strange to me that I did not think to make a video about a commander that literally marries all of those things together all at once, but here we are. I'm making up for lost time. Choco, Seeker of Paradise, is a Bant and 1 burb. Whenever one or more burbs you control attack, look at the top cards of your deck equal to the amount of burbs that attacked. You may then put one of those cards into your hand and then put any number of land cards onto the battlefield. Also, whenever a land we control enters, Choco gets 1/0 until end of turn. Now, I wish we could replicate this ability onto all of our burbs, but since we can't, we are going to have to find some other ways to get lots and lots of power onto our board state. At the very least, though, Choco has the wonderful ability to not only give us tons and tons of free cards, but also to smack somebody in the face really hard for Voltron damage once in a while. So, what's our strategy going to be? We are going to be doing a mid-range token-based combat deck where Landfall is a sub-theme that allows us to power up our board state. So let's really quick go into what we are gonna be working with here. First of all, we've got lots of bird token production, so let's talk about these cards first. The first one of these is going to be Geishel Greens. This makes a 2/2 burb, and this 2/2 burb will be able to get the same ability as our Choco, getting 1/0 anytime we have a land touch the battlefield. Also, with Flashback, we can use it to get another burb out later on in the game. Then we have Winged Blade Disciple. Anytime we cast the second spell of our turn, we get to make a 1/1 burb. And then we have Migratory Route. It will make a bunch of burbs, and then we can even use basic land cycling to get a better burb if we need. I'm kidding, it's not getting us another bird, it's getting us another land. Real quick pitch, if you like watching people play video games, I do a lot of that over on my Twitch channel. I was recently playing Donkey Kong over there, and it's been an interesting experience. I also occasionally do Magic Arena over there if that's your jam. But honestly, since you're over here, if you haven't already, please consider going down and clicking the like button and also the subscribe button. It helps me out a ton as a content creator and makes it easier to get more content out there in front of more people's eyes if you like seeing people run budget builds. If you want to support me financially, there are a couple of ways to do so. There's obviously Patreon, which is down here, but you can also pick up my channel playmat over it with the link in the description below. And there's also my mana pool link where you can get all kinds of sealed product as well as a ton of singles if that is what you are looking for. That all said, I appreciate your time, and let's get right back into the video. Then we have Chocobo Racetrack. This will get us a 2/2 green bird every time a land enters our battlefield. Murmuring Mystic makes us another burb every time we cast an instant or a sorcery spell, of which our deck contains 25. Battle Screech makes 2 burbs, and it's got flashback, so we can make 2 more birds if need be. Then we have Raven's Warning, which makes a 1/1 burb, and then says if a creature with flying deals combat damage to a player, we get to look at the cards in their hand and then draw a card. Then we have Side Quest, Raise a Chocobo. This enchantment enters the battlefield and makes us a singular burb. And then we can flip it later on in the game to make the Black Chocobo, who's got the ability to give us a basic land card and also has the same ability as Choco, getting more powerful when lands touch the battlefield. Emeria Angel will spawn a burb every time we play a land. Hermes, Overseer of Elphis, will spawn a burb every time we cast a non-creature spell. And Formless Genesis will be able to make us burbs from the grave, as many times as we have lands in our hand to throw away. Yeah, these may not look like birds, but I mean, come on, that's kind of a bird. That's close enough to a bird. Then, like I said, we need to have access to a lot of extra power because Choco cannot lord its own power to everybody else, and Choco lacks evasion. So we are going to be running 9 cards to do this, the first of which is Favorable Winds, to give all of our flying creatures 1/1, and Empyrean Eagle does the same thing. Strike Force has Flying, Double Strike, and Vigilance, so it's going to get a lot of extra juice out of cards like Empyrean Ingle and Favorable Winds. And then we have Geomorph Imago. For our landfall ability on this, we get to turn a creature into a 3/3 or a 6/6 if we have enough lands. Strike Force with this is just a 12/12 with, you know, whatever extra power we've added onto it, so you can kind of see why it's in here. Then we have Glacier Godmaw. Whenever a land enters our battlefield, we get to give all of our creatures 1/1 and Vigilance until end of turn. Then we have Canyon Gerbora, which allows us to give all of our creatures 1/1 when we have landfall. Maja allows us to give all of our creatures 1/1 and also gives us the ability to spawn tokens. Kengi Sky Warden allows us to give all of our flyers 2/0, and Bioengineered Future not only gives us a land, but gives our creatures all an additional 1/1 counter if they enter the battlefield after we have shot lands onto the board. Bioengineered Future with Choco means we can spawn some bird tokens with an obscene amount of 1/1 counters later in the game. We also want to protect our commander and our board state, so Plumecreed Escort can allow us to give our commander hexproof at flash speed while also being a burb, and then Ambrosia Whiteheart is another bird that allows us to throw a permanent we need into our hand, so we can protect any of our important game pieces later on in the game if that ends up being something that is necessary for us. And that really does it for the main core strategy of the deck. All we are trying to do is get enough birds out to hurt our opponents, and then make them feel like an Alfred Hitchcock movie is happening in their backyard, while throwing out a ton of lands as we do so. That all said, let's get into the draw section so we can talk about the other things this deck is trying to do. Our commander already has a decent bit of draw, but we're going to add a 8-card draw package on top of this, beginning with an oldie from my childhood, Thieving Magpie, a burb that when it touches somebody in the face, we get to draw a card. River Hoopy, who can be a mana sink for all that extra mana we have later in the game, who's also a burb. Kishla Skimmer allows us to basically draw a card anytime a card leaves our graveyard, but otherwise it's a 2-mana 2/2 bird. We don't have a ton of ways to get things out of our graveyard, but it is incidental draw, and if we get Bajuka Bogged for somebody to get rid of our retrace mechanic, then this will draw us a card as a result of that. Then we have Tatiova Benthic Druid. Anytime we landfall, we get to draw a card. Airborne Aid draws us a card for every bird in play. Bident of Thassa will draw us a card when our birds make face. Castrol the Windscreed can draw us a card when our birds make face and can also add 1/1 counters to all of our birds. And then we have the Winged Portent, which allows us to draw a card for every creature we control with flying. It's also got instant, so we can hold this up alongside a counterspell and cast this at the last possible second if need be. And that does it for the entire draw package. Our commander's already drawing lots of cards, and you could get rid of some of the birds in here and add in more Bident of Thassa style effects, but since we only have 12 birds in the deck, as well as a lot of bird token production, I wanted to make sure that we had as much burbing as humanly possible. After all, I've heard that there's a word in regards to all of this. A word that I think everybody's heard about, honestly. And now for a bunch of cards you probably want to use on me after that joke. Anyway, Family Guy jokes aside, we have a 12-card removal and interaction package, beginning with some counter spells. Unravel can counter a spell, and if that spell was discounted, we get to draw a card. Divert Disaster counters a spell, but if our opponent pays 2 mana, they get to keep their spell, but we get a lander token. Refute counters a spell and then allows us to draw a card. Negate counters any non-creature spell, and Judge's Familiar is a burb that can counter a spell if our opponents do not pay 1. Then we have the Siege Ship Impact, blowing up an artifact or enchantment, and if it was tiny, we also get a lander token. Stroke of Midnight can blow up any kind of non-land permanent. Heritage Reclamation can blow up an artifact, enchantment, or get rid of a thing in a graveyard. Dauntless Scrapbot gives us a lander while also getting rid of cards in a player's graveyard. Broker's Charm gives us the choice between giving a creature 1/0 and then fighting with it, blowing up an enchantment, or drawing 2 cards. Endless Detour can throw a spell or a non-land permanent anywhere we damn well choose, and Bant Charm can either blow up an artifact, bounce a creature, or counter any instant spell. And that gives us a lot of ability to get rid of any number of very powerful problematic cards. We also have some board wipes, time wipes, so we can blow everything except our commander up, Cleansing Nova to blow up all creatures or all enchantments if we need to, or Austere Command, which allows us to blow up all artifacts or enchantments or creatures of varying powers. This gives us a bunch of different ways to handle our opponent's cards, so let's use them wisely, and let's talk about mana so we can ramp up to using all of our spells. Now, of course, our deck gets to run a lot of ramp ability because we have some landfall, and the first one I want to talk about is the new Sammy's Curiosity. This gives us 2 life, and then it creates a lander token. You probably already understand what this means. This is a Font of Fertility, which is a Wayfarer's Bauble, which is a Diligent Farmhand. All of these cards are identical to one another, and they have the same mana costs, they have the same ask of you as a player, and they all do the same things. They all let you spend 1 mana, and then spend 2 mana, and then get a land, while having some other various benefits as well. I'm surprised I haven't seen anybody talk about Sammy's Curiosity yet. This thing is fantastic. We also have Search for Tomorrow and Wood Elves to grab lands out of our deck and put them on the battlefield untapped. Wood Elves notably can grab a forest, though. Farseek is finally budget option available for us now that it's 50 cents instead of like $2 or $3. It grabs any not forest out of our deck and throws it onto the battlefield. We have Rampant Growth to grab any basic land from our deck, as we have Soccer Tribe Elder to do the same. We also have a Growth Spiral to draw a card and drop a land down, a Cultivate to get 2 lands out of our deck and drop 1 down, and then a Biomechan Engineer, who has the ability to give us a lander token and has a mana sink to let us draw lots of cards. Past that, we're going to be running the Omni lands of Path of Ancestry, Exotic Orchard, and Command Tower with a ton of fetching lands. All of these are so we can trigger landfall whenever we need. We've got Evolving Wilds, Terramorphic Expanse, and Escape Tunnel that are all the same card. Then we've got Myriad Landscape and Crow's Verge that can grab 2 lands at once. Then we have Bant Panorama and Shire Terrace, which again are the same card. They're faster lands that can sack themselves at will. And Tranquil Landscape, which is the median between Terramorphic Expanse and Bant Panorama, just being the best of both worlds and being a fantastic card that should be an auto-include in all land packages. Then we are going to be running 3 Azorius lands, all of which come into play untapped. Prairie Stream, Port Town, and Skycloud Expanse. Same thing with the Selesnya lands. We're running the exact same kinds that come into play untapped. For Simic, we do not yet have the Simic Tango land, so for now we're going to be running a Tangled Islet along with an Overflowing Basin and a Vine Glimmer Snarl. We still want to use the Tangled Islet for now, though, because it is a forest island, meaning any cards like Wood Elves that would yank this out of our deck will be able to give us access to more colors. And finally, we have a bunch of basic lands, 8 forests, 5 islands, and 4 plains. And that does it for all of our mana. All that's left to do is talk about how the deck plays, and let's get right into that. Looking at this opening hand, we don't have a ton of ways to ramp, but we do have our Bioengineered Future and an Emeria Angel, and the Angel is actually something that I'm kind of looking forward to using, so let's go ahead and stick with this hand. Also, the Terramorphic Expanse is here, and there's a gamble I want to take with it that I hope will pay off, so let's see. It looks like the gamble's actually going to pay off because turn 2, we get to put down a Crow's Verge and then pass to our opponents. Turn 3, we lost the ability to play Side Quest Raise a Chocobo on turn 2, so we are playing a bit behind on that, getting that out now. Turn 4 just sees us getting out Emeria Angel and playing a Sungrass Prairie. A lot of stuff was actually able to happen on turn 5. We played Terramorphic Expanse, dropped it down, and then got 2 bird tokens out thanks to our Emeria Angel. Then we swung with the Emeria Angel and the bird, seeing the top 2 cards of our deck with Choco that we played this turn, and that gave us an extra island, which spawns another bird. That gives us plenty of birds to flip over our black Chocobo, putting us in a very good spot. Turn 6 sees us playing Bioengineered Future and then cracking Crow's Verge to get a Tangled Islet and a Canopy Vista. Thanks to that, Bioengineered Future will allow us to create a 2/2 bird, then a 3/3 bird, and then a 4/4 bird as it adds escalating 1/1 counters onto all of our creatures thanks to our landfall ability. That allows us to swing with 7 birds, revealing the top 7 cards of our library, which sees us seeing 1, 2, 3, and 4 lands enter. 4 lands entering allows us to create more birds. While Choco did not see any birds out of that, this means we now have a 2/2 bird all the way up to an 8/8 bird in staircased fashion. This means when turn 7 comes around, we can just eliminate a single player. This means when turn 7 comes around, we are swinging with just in flyers, 41 damage to a single player. That many birds, of course, lets us see all of these cards right here, and of them we get to play the Plains, the Vine Glimmer Snarl, and the Forest, and the Windbrisk Heights. And after cracking all of the lands we got from the last Choco run, we get this many birds with these attack and power values. This means we have another 42 damage in birds on the battlefield with another 2 damage bird that we spawned earlier. So 44 damage in birds here and then 41 damage in birds back here. This means we've eliminated one player and we can now eliminate the next player when the next turn comes around. All in all, that makes quick work of all of our opponents really well, and that's kind of scary. I didn't realize this deck was going to do that when I made it while I was, you know, otherwise preoccupied. Let's go ahead and talk about what we can do to upgrade this thing, though. If you're looking to upgrade this deck, the Traveling Chocobo gives the deck a ton of longevity, allowing you to cast birds and get lands off the top of your deck. Then we have the Keeper of the Nine Gales, which can give you some much-needed removal in the deck. Raise the Palisade, a one-sided board wipe thanks to having birds. Flurry of Wings, one of the best ways to spawn tons of birds out of the deck. Kindred Discovery, the most dangerous draw spell you could ever use, because it can just kill you too. Patchwork Banner, a ramp spell that powers up your birds. Felidar Retreat, a card that can give a 1/1 counter to all of your birds every time you play a land. Murmuration, which gives you a lot of power for your birds and makes you make storm crows at the end of your turn. Aven Interrupter, a pseudo counter spell that also happens to be a bird. Banner of Kinship, a card that if you play it, you are going to be the asshole of the table. I promise you, this thing is very strong. Then we have the Watcher of Spheres, which allows you to have lower costed birds. Ezio, the Warding Familiar, giving you some protection for your commander. Jackdaw Savior, who allows you to have some recursion for your birds. And Steel Plume Marshal, another way to power up all of our birds. And that really does it for the deck. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully the upgrade guide helps you out a little bit. And enjoy spawning a copious amount of birds on your opponent's nutsack. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. I really could not do any of this without all of you. Those of you watching, and especially those of you who support me on Patreon. I wanted to go ahead and take a minute to thank all of you who do that, because with YouTube being what it is these days, I really cannot do this full time without the support from each and every one of you. Those people would be Red Joker, Purple Poundini, Jemshin, Britzkrieg, Jupe the Malignant, Michael, Ravalern, Mabbity Babbity, Astral Frontier, Tales of Atonement, Nixie Chan, Kiri Artemis, Limor Pinku, Love Bunny Games, Victorian Alchemist, I'm not saying the last part of that, and you know that, Aurora, Leela Ururaka, Arcton Arclacier, Kiratorian, Dren Hadamata, Jordan M, John L, Lord Bleck, Smiling Game Master, and Fire Shard. Thank you so very much. But since you're here, why not go ahead and try watching another one? There should be one that's on the screen right now. And if you are a patron of mine, I wanted to go ahead and thank you again for all of your support. There is still a video you could press though, if you'd like. I would appreciate it. Just a little bit.